Hello and welcome to this video on Python. And today we're going to be covering a fundamental and totally essential skill for all programmers at any level. And that is being able to look at the documentation for any of the libraries or functions that you are using in order to diagnose any issues and solve them, or just finding built-in solutions to problems that you have instead of spending lots of time and effort reinventing the wheel. There are a huge amount of libraries and functions for Python, and you will never be expected to know every single one of them and be able to use them by heart. And that is why it's so imperative that you can read and understand the provided documentation. This video is going to cover the two main ways to pull up the documentation. First, we'll cover the help function, and for that you just have to type in the word help, followed by opened and closed brackets, and when you execute that, you'll see this dialog comes up here, and any modules, keywords, functions, as it says here, things you want to get more information about, you just have to put into this search box here. So for example, we can put the print function in, one of the first ones that you've covered. And it's always formatted the same way. So first we've got print here, the function, and it shows all of the different parameters that can be passed into this function. Then it's followed by a brief description of the purpose of the function and what it does, and then a brief description of all of the optional parameters. Now, any of the parameters with these equal signs in them means that they are optional parameters, which means if you don't specify what you want them to be, they'll just by default be set to whatever they're set equal to here. For example, if you wanted to print a couple of hellos like this, you can see it comes out like this. But from the documentation, we can see here that we've got the parameter set, which is the string that's inserted between values and is defaulted to a space. So here between these three hellos, we've got a space in here. So if we want to change that, we can just go here and do set equals and change that to anything you want, say a hyphen, or you can use the empty string to get rid of that altogether. But once again, if you don't have anything there, it just defaults to a space. And the other one that's quite useful is this one here, the end parameter, the string appended after the last value, which defaults to a new line, which is this \n character that you saw up here. And that is the symbol to just print a new line. So if we had a loop running, which on every iteration of a loop printed something such as hello, you'd see each one takes a new line, but that could be quite irritating and not what you want a lot of the time. So if we just do end equals, you can do the empty string, but then there's no spaces, so it's quite useful to just put a space in, and then they're all going to print on the same line. Now, although the help function is very useful, if we were to put in something a bit bigger, like say matplotlib.pyplot, which you'll see later on, you see that the documentation and the dialogue that comes up here is just incredibly long, and you can't be expected to look through all of that to try find information. Instead, it is much more practical to just look it up on the internet. And to do that, you can just put the name of the thing you're trying to get documentation on, simply followed by the word documentation. And usually the first thing that comes up is the right one. And you can see here that we've got all of these subheadings. We can navigate through it, all these clickable links, and it's overall just a much better experience to use. The other good thing about this online documentation is if we were to click on, say, pyplot.bar, which is the function for making bar charts, and we were to look through it, again, this is the same layout as we saw in the help function. You can see at the bottom here, we get a bunch of example codes, and if we look at these, we can see what they output and how they're written, and these are always incredibly helpful to look at, and you can almost always find what you're looking for in these examples. So once again, reading documentation is an incredibly useful and essential skill for programmers, and one that can seem daunting at first, but you will definitely be proficient at pretty quickly. So I hope this has been helpful and you'll continue to find it helpful, and thank you for watching.